Hello there and welcome. I'm Ole Brygger, and today we're going to extend this Necromancer's Gate I built in a previous video. I have a piece of foam here. We're going to cut it in 12 by 21, and then we're going to make an elevator to the underworld, or maybe hell. Why don't we just get started? First I'm gonna mark up the foam. I will just make it the same size as the Necromancer's Gate and match up where the hole is. I now have the 21-inch width, and now I can mark up the 12-inch line and cut the foam to size on my proxon. I'll mark up the foam roughly where the roads and where I'm going to cut the cliffs, and cut it up roughly on my proxon. I decided that I will only use the foam I have cut off this piece as the terrain parts and cliffs. Like this part, I will use this for a wall up against the Necromancer's Gate. I will use my handheld hot wire cutter to cut the hole and just trim everything down to size and see where it fits. The proxon did a good job cutting everything out roughly, but I will use my handheld hot wire cutter to roughen things up and make the cliffs look more sharp. And I will do the same thing with my walls from my cutoffs. My hot glue gun to attach it to the base. And all the small parts I have cut off is just glue it on. I already cut it, and it's just the opposite side of the trim. So I actually make two perfect pieces in one stroke. And then an idea hit me. The big cutoff I did for the big gap, it would be a perfect thing to elevate the terrain even more. So I decided to make some stairs and elevate the terrain. I used my hot wire cutter to make the rough cut and an X-Acto nut to make the details. Glue it on with my hot glue gun and trim the edge with my hot wire cutter. I will trim down the rest of the leftover scrap and attach it to the board. All the cliffs are attached. And now I will use some basing. I use cat litter and tiny rocks and some bigger rocks. And of course some basing glue. I'll use a brush to spread out the glue and just fill in the tiny pebble rocks and the cat litter. On the Necromancer's Gate I had some copper-like stones at the exit. And to make a perfect transition from one board to another, I will do the same thing here to the entrance of this new board. I'll just spread out this drywall filler and draw in the cobblestones. Now I just needed to fill in the rest of all cat litter and stones. I let it set to dry overnight, and now it was time to prime it. Usually I would use Mod Podge, but in this case I will use the terrain primer from the Army Painter. This is a lot faster, and since I already used it on the Necromancer's Gate, I will use the same thing and process here. To do the final touch-up on the primer, I will use this German Panzer Grey from Vallejo. There, I missed a spot or two, and the color is not exactly the same, but who will tell the difference? Then I'll use this Thunderstorm from the Army Painter Air series. This is just to give the edges along the paths some color. Now to the pan pastels. I'll use this purple color on top of where I sprayed it with the blue, and some burnt umber on the paths just to give it a dirty look. Last time I used pan pastels, I used a respirator, but today I'm just using a face mask, you know, the ones from the corona times. If bacteria doesn't get through, well, maybe this dust won't either. And to finish off the pan pastels, I'll use this light gray just to give it some highlights and bind everything together. Now everything fits perfectly together with the Necromancer's Gate I built last week. It is getting interesting now. I will build an elevator to the Underdark. It will be a treadmill-based elevator like the treadmill I used for the crane when I built the docks. So I went to my laser cutter and cut out some parts. We also need some coffee stir sticks and some of my walnut sticks. I also found this wooden dowel for the rotating parts. First, I will build a wooden base for the elevator. Half of the base will go over the edge, so we also need some beams to support it. I will cut up 4 beams that are 6 inches long to support the deck. Half of it will hang over the edge of the cliff. To build the platform, I will use some coffee stir sticks. I will need a 4x4 inch gap in the middle. This is where the elevator platform will be. The platform will also need a couple of supports. This is the same 5x5 walnut sticks I used to support the deck. And now to assemble the treadmills. I will use the same method as I used for my crane for the dock. I've cut out some 1-inch coffee stir sticks and then I will super glue them to the rings I laser cut earlier. And finally sanding everything down to smooth all the edges. And now I will build the elevator platform. I use a piece of walnut stick that is 3x5mm and some coffee stir sticks. Here we have the base and the platform for the lift and the 2 treadmill wheels. We need something to support the change, and then I decided to scrap one of the wheels because I wanted to be more accessible for playability. The support for the lifting platform is now done, and now I have to figure out how to attach the treadmill. I want it to spin, but I don't want it to have any other functionality. I used this handheld 1mm drill so I could attach these ring hooks for the chain. I got these from a jewelry kit I found on Amazon. And then I can hook up the chain with a little middle clip that also was in the set. I used way too much chain, but it was okay. I could just super glue the chain I needed and cut the rest off. It works. I can lower and lift the elevator. And now for some paint. I used the speed paint darkwood, which I have plenty of in my stock, because it's a very effective way to paint all the coffee stir sticks and walnut. Then I just need to glue the platform on the board. It was a bit out of balance, so I used a couple of drops of super glue just to make sure it would stay put when I was setting it down. Otherwise, I was using the Aleene's tacky glue for the rest of the beams. And now it was just pressing it down and hold it for a few seconds and it would stay put. To give it a final touch, I weathered it down with some of the pan pastels. I'm using a light gray just to make it look worn out. We are done. And I'm quite impressed. This project only took me 1.5 days in total time. And the first day I only built for maybe 1.5 hours just to glue the foam together. And the day after I had some painting to do. I painted in the morning and in the afternoon I just made the last finishing touches. And of course I built the elevator. The pan pastels. I only used 3 different colors. The brown thing, the purple and some gray for the highlight. And this just sped up the process. I made this project a bit more purplish compared to the other. But it's because we are going more down under. The next project is more a transition project for some methods I will use in the final project of the Underdark, but that will be in the next week's episode. And then we will go deep down under. This is it for now. Thank you so much for watching this to the end. I'm looking forward to the next projects. See you soon. Goodbye for now.